look at CBS. What did CBS give Rutgers, the Rutgers trial, or the Rutgers incident? Rutgers, 14 minutes and 27 seconds. How much did Gosnell get? The Gosnell trial got 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Well, at least there's NBC. There's still hope. NBC, Rutgers, 18 minutes. 18 minutes. The highest, by the way, of coverage. 18 minutes and 58 seconds. Gosnell, 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Let me read a little bit more of this article. Last week, Media Research Center founded Brent Bozell and 20 other leaders of the conservative movement publicly demanded the networks end their blackout and Gosnell trial. They haven't. Perhaps they've been too traumatized by Rutgers and the shocking videotapes. Shocking, and that's in quotations, as ABC Jenna Wolf called them. Shocking. Oh. April 6, NBC's Erica Hill also called them shocking on that morning's Today at CBS. This morning, on April 3rd, anchor Noah O'Donnell found the video stunning. Shocking and stunning because a basketball coach yelled at his players, cursed at them, shoved them, and made homosexual slurs at them. And yet you have a man that is just has massacred how many countless babies, and no coverage whatsoever. Anyway, so that's that is a that is a travesty. That is the worst news story that I have ever heard. The Gosnell trials that I have ever heard. Now, there's also something else going on. What about the White House? Well, maybe the White House has something to say about it. Perhaps the White House and the President of the United States has, at least made some kind of public statement or something like that. Washington, D.C., during a press briefing on Monday, when questioned about the ongoing murder trial of notorious abortionists who operated a house of horrors in Philadelphia, the White House refused to take a position on the matter or even post-birth abortion in general. They didn't even... They refused to take a stand. I want to play a video right now of that, of a reporter asking the White House about the Gosnell trial. Listen to what is said in this video.
There's a murder trial in Pennsylvania that I know is getting a lot of attention, more attention than the media was not getting a lot of attention. Kermit Gosnell, this doctor who's accused of delivering some babies who were literally screaming and then beheading them. He's facing murder charges on that. It hasn't been decided yet, obviously, still on trial. Is the president following this at all? Does the White House have any reaction to that kind of situation that is alleged?
Well, I'll say two things. One, the president is aware of this. Two, the president does not and cannot take a position on an ongoing trial, so I won't as well. Certainly, the things that you hear and read about this case are unsettling, but
unsettling. Unsettling. That is a understatement.
I can't comment further on an ongoing legal proceeding.
I understand the legal proceeding. The president, as a state senator in 2003, voted against a bill that would provide medical care, as I understand, to babies who would be born after a botched abortion like this. And the president at the time said he couldn't support it as a state senator because he felt like any doctor in that situation would take care of a child. When you hear this kind of evidence, it suggests there's at least one doctor who apparently did not. I understand you can't comment. You can't deal with the deliberations of the case, but is there some legislative solution, or at least a conversation that needs to happen in Washington? Because on guns, you were just saying we need common sense reform. We need to save lives.
All right, on guns, you hear that? He was just talking about guns. We need to save lives. Listen to what he says about aborted babies.
In this case, do we need to be saving lives as well?
Well, again, you're relating it to a case that I can't comment on and the President can't comment on. I would simply say that the President's position on choice is very clear. His position on the basic principle that, as President Clinton said, abortions ought to be safe, legal, and rare is very clear.
And yet when babies are born alive through a botched abortion, we shouldn't save lives? Is that what he's saying? It sounds like it to me.
I just don't have comment that could shed light on this specific case.
Just last one on this then. Is there any sort of common sense reform, though, without restricting abortion rights? Does the White House see any line in there where if there is a baby that is still alive, they should be taken care of without restricting abortion rights?
And you're asking for hypotheticals about legislation or proposed legislation that I haven't seen, so it's hard for me to comment on it.
It's hard for me to comment on the lives of babies that are born alive through a botched abortion. It's hard for me to comment and say that their lives are not valuable, that their lives are not important, that they should be spared, that they should be taken to a hospital, that there should be a doctor there that should try to save that child's life. No, you see, these things are just not as important as gun control and the other issues of the day. One more thing that I want to cover before we go, back over to this article that I began to read here just before I played the White House response. Let's see. Let me go over to it. Click on it. Go back to it. It is put out by the Christian Research Network. And I do what you heard in the beginning, by the way. The beginning of the podcast was Chris Smith, who is a representative for the state of New Jersey, there were 10 other men who stood up and gave a speech about this. So let me just read a portion of this article that talks about that, and then I want to play another representative who also gave a speech about the Gosnell trials. However, as previously reported, 10 members of Congress hosted a special House floor, and to note that his case is not extraordinary. Talking about Gosnell's case, is not extraordinary to the abortion industry. The astounding reality is that Dr. Gosnell's methods of killing babies who survive abortions are commonly used in clinics across the nation, asserted Representative Roger Williams of Texas. Similar deadly actions have taken the lives of over 1 million unborn children each year in the United States. This is a violent act that is unjustifiable, he continued. I am a firm believer that every human being is created in God's own image. Every life is precious, and we have an obligation to protect life at every stage. It's time we get rid of this gruesome procedure once and for all. One more report from Representative Joe Pitts that I want you to hear. Now, there's some things that he says in this that I don't agree with, but however, I do appreciate these 10 senators, these 10 men, these 10 representatives standing up and questioning why the Kermit Gosnell trial has not been reported by the media. But rather the Rutgers trial or the Rutgers incident has gotten so much airtime. And I really appreciate this. However, this one senator, Joe Pitts, says some things that I just want to point out in his speech, and then we're going to end the program here. But listen to what he says.
Runs through the heart of my district in Lancaster County and Chester County in Pennsylvania. And you follow that road.
Really quickly, just before we continue, he's talking about the fact that there was a church right across the street from Gosnell's clinic, and that's what he's opening up as you hear him talk about the street, and the street running through the district and that. So that's what he's opening up with.
All the way into Philadelphia, you'll pass a nondescript triangle-shaped brick building at 38th Street. And for years, Dr. Kermit Gosnell operated a factory of death in this location, just across the street from a church. This week, Gosnell is on trial for multiple homicides that demonstrate just how thin the line between abortion and murder is in this country.
that demonstrate how thin the line between abortion and murder is in this country. How thin the line? No. Abortion is murder. It is not called murder, it's called abortion, but nonetheless it really, truly is murder. Taking the life of a child, not a fetus, but a child in the womb, is murder. You can call it abortion if you want, to try to numb the word or try to dumb the word down, but it is murder. So that's the first thing I wanted you to hear.
Dr. Kermit Gosnell spent years taking advantage of vulnerable women, offering illegal and dangerous abortions in exchange for cash. He also operated a pill mill, selling prescription drugs to anyone in the neighborhood with enough cash. He sold death to the poor. And he lived handsomely for years. State authorities never darkened the door of what he called a clinic until a mother died of an overdose during one of Gosnell's procedures. He used clinical terminology to pave over the fact that in many cases he was killing a child who had already been born. 7 counts of murdering an infant and a single count of murdering a mother. We don't really know how many children died after they were born. Just as he was careless with the lives of children, he was careless with the lives of mothers, and he treated them in terrible conditions, often sending them out of the clinic injured and still under the influence of anesthesia. We should always remember that abortion is the most violent form of death known to humankind. And there are always 2 victims in every abortion. One is the child, the unborn child, the other is the mother.
That's the second thing that I wanted you to hear. There are always 2 victims in an abortion. One is the child, which is correct. The other is the mother, which is incorrect. The mother is not a victim. The mother is participating in murder. And that is something that people don't like to say, but it is true. A mother who would abort their child is participating in the death of their child. They themselves are a murderer. So the mother is not a victim. She is a participant in the death of her own child. She herself is a murderer.
One is dead, one is wounded. And abortion is violence against the unborn. It's also violence against women.
And that is the third thing. It is violence against women. No, the women are putting themselves in that situation. They are putting themselves there. It is not violence against women. It is violence against the unborn child. It is violence against that baby, yes, but it is not violence against women. The women who go to these abortion clinics to have an abortion are participating in the murder of their own children. So it is not violence against them. It is the mothers who are committing violence against their own children.
But the facts of this case raise the disturbing question of just how close legal abortion practices come to outright murder. Gosnell knew that there was little real medical difference between killing the child in utero and killing them outside of the mother. Like standard legal abortion practice, he would use chemicals to first poison the unborn child. And if he had waited until death to remove their bodies, he would be within the law.
Now, I do want to commend him, Mr. Pitts, for at least calling it what it is, calling it a child, calling it an unborn child rather than a fetus. And again, I am not trying to pick at these senators. These representatives. I am so thankful that these men had the guts to stand up on the floor and to present this speech. So I'm not trying to criticize, but I just wanted to clarify. I wanted you to hear something, and I wanted to clarify some of the things that were said by Mr. Pitts in this speech.
Because he took the children out of the mothers while they were still alive, he is guilty of murder.
and he would be guilty of murder, at least in the sight of God, maybe not in